All right, here is a speech given by the Lubavitcher Rebbe. We're continuing this. We're continuing what we began yesterday. Yesterday we learned a speech about Rebbe Akiva that was given by the Lubavitcher Rebbe in 1953, I'm sorry, in 1953. And today we're learning about also a speech given by the Rebbe, one second, shortly thereafter. Here we go. Now, the days of Lag BaOmer, this is about 1,800 years ago, a little bit more. So, like we said yesterday, the pupils of Rebbe Akiva, they all died. He had 24,000 pupils, and they died because they didn't properly respect one the other. They were lacking a certain degree of love and appreciation of one the other. And because they were so great, so God was very strict with them. I mean, basically, it's really not that understandable what exactly happened over there, but it happened. And we have to learn from that a lesson, not that if we don't give honor, we're going to get punished like they did, but how important it is to God that we should honor and respect one another, even if our opinions are different. And also, in the 33rd day of the 50 days of counting the Omer, was later on, was when Rebbe Shimon Bar Yochai passed away. So, okay, we find now, I am, by the way, broadcasting from my grandson's bedroom. My grandson is now by the Rebbe in New York, but in his bedroom in the city of Miron. So the background is a genuine, rustic, young boys' background. See all the clothes and everything. Okay. Mir gefinnen zich, we are found now in the days from the counting of the Omer. Excuse me 1 minute. Just get my pointer here. Oh. In the days of counting the Omer, right? These 50 days between Passover and Shavuot. Shavuot is the holiday which commemorates the giving of the Torah. The Sephira Tug, the counting days from these connect Pesach, Passover, when the Jews got out of the exile of Egypt, and the holiday of Shavuot, which is the time when they received the Torah. The site when the Yidden, the time when the Jews, Kuman, the Torah, when they reached the Torah, they received the Torah from God by means of Moses. So we're connecting these two amazing events, which I don't think there's too many history books, or there's any history books, even in university, that talk about this, or even talk about the claim of the Jews. Let's say it didn't really happen, but the Jews claimed it. I don't even think they write that the Jews claim that this is what happened. I don't think so. I'm not a big history major, but I mean, like, as we said so many times before, that there's never been in the history of mankind anything like it, and there's never been any nation or religion that even claimed it happened to them. That God took all of the, the Irish or something, they were all in, captivity in Australia or something, and God took them all out and he gave them his book. Never such a thing. No, even all the other religions didn't make it up. But we did, and we didn't make it up. Also, it's true. You don't have to believe it. You don't have to believe it, but it's true. You don't have to believe you have a grandmother, but if you got a grandmother, you can take your choice. Anyways, it did happen. God, creator of the universe, did take the Jews out of Egypt. And he fed them bread from heaven and water from a rock. He took them to Mount Sinai, and he gave them the Torah. This is 50 days after they got out of Egypt. So we count those days. Okay. In the Beder Basiring, on both of these occasions, in exile and going out of exile, Also in receiving the Torah, their Zeltuns, our wise men, the rabbis tell us, as the kinder, that the Jewish children had a special zehut, had a special merit. Huh? The Jewish children had a special merit. Und durch their according, because of their conduct, haben they had mitgebrachtem zechut, they brought the merit from the Jewish people. Okay, I mean, this is definitely not a class in comparative religion. I'm not, but the idea is the only reason I'm bringing the other religions is not to disprove them or something, but just to show that they're tremendously popular, right? They've got millions, billions of people that follow after them. And all of them, because people want something, they sense that there's something more than just what meets the eye. They sense that there is. And that doesn't make it right or not. I mean, it could be a psychological thing, but nevertheless, they do sense what's going on. Okay, so none of these other religions, as far as I know, put a big stress on the children, on the merit of the children. Because of the children, the Jewish people got out of Egypt, and especially because of the children, they received the Torah. The main thing is they received the Torah because of the children. Children is very important. In Judaism, the main commodity of Judaism is education. The Torah is a book. God gave a book. Huh? God took the Jews out of Egypt in order to give them a book. Why couldn't give them a book? Give them a book. What's the big deal? You have to put them in Egypt for 210 years to give them a book. They could go down to the library. Everybody could go down to the library and take out a book. So difficult. 300. Right? I'd like to take out the Bible, please. Have you been in Egyptian servitude for 210 years? No, what's that got to do with it? Well, then I'm sorry, we can't give you the book. Next, please. That's ridiculous. There's no book you have to get in order to get the book. You have to have been a slave for 210 years. And it's not just you. If you came out, okay. I look on the street, I found somebody that has been a slave for 210 years. He was a slave. His parents were a slave in Egypt. Yeah, in Egypt. Now we give me the book. I want to get the book. Maybe he'll get the book, but let me ask him a couple questions first. Were you there together with like 15 million other Jews? No. And the other person says, oh, come on. I mean, this is just ridiculous. All I want to do is just take out a book. I want to take out a book from the library, the Bible. Let me have this. No, sorry. I only give it to people that have been in slavery for 210 years together with millions of other people like himself. Okay, next, please. Next. But that's what happened with the Torah. In order to get the Torah, the Jews had to be, makes no sense, but that's what it is. So it says that the children were the main influences. So the children, they were a big deciding factor in God giving the Jews the Torah. The fact that the Jews suffered in Egypt in slavery for 210 years, and God took them miraculously out, that wasn't enough. The main thing is the children. How we'll see. Galus Mitzrayim, the going out of Egypt, was one of the most difficult exiles. In the exile in Egypt. Zainen Geven, there were special gezeros, there were special decrees of Yiddish kinder, of Jewish children. In addition to the fact that the elders had to work, especially after the children, and for the children, until Zainen Geven, there was a time was manhat geharget, when they killed Rahman Litzlan, they killed the Jewish children. It's a big thing. Jewish children, they got to kill them. From this, not the elders. The elders, they needed them for work, but you have to kill them, kill the children. I think nowadays, with the decrees, with the abortions, many more children are being killed every year. But those are children that haven't been born yet. So you don't see them. How do you say? So out of sight, out of mind. But here, these are children that have already been born. Nevertheless, haben Jiden sich nicht abgeschreckt. The Jewish people did not fear. They were not discouraged. Nicht the kinder, not the children were not discouraged, and not the elders were not discouraged. Und sie haben vergesetzt their learning. They sat and learned Torah and it says the tribe of Levi. The Rosh Yeshivas, there were Rosh Yeshivas and etc., and they sent in every generation. So you think, I mean, there's so many Jews nowadays, I don't know nowadays, but at least, after the Holocaust, that said, I'm finished with Judaism because of the Holocaust. And they got a good point. You can't blame them. Can't blame them, for it. I mean, there was terrible things that went on. Even though the Rebbe pointed out very clearly that these people are not really 100% justified. I mean, they're justified that their brains were scrambled by what they saw. And it was terrible. But to make the conclusion that therefore I'm leaving Judaism, and that's exactly what Hitler wanted. Okay, but nevertheless, Jewish people had difficulties, and it's very, how do you say, logical and I say explainable that because of these difficulties, they leave Judaism or they're afraid to do it. Not so in Egypt. The power was killing the Jews. It was very difficult. And nevertheless, the children were not afraid at all. And therefore, Zion and they sat and they learned the Torah. The Torah was taught to them. And no one stood up and said, hey, what are you trying to do? Kill us? Get us killed? No, the children learned the Torah. And afterwards, Zion and die Kinder, those children, given the Ersha, they were the first ones which recognized God. It says when the Jewish people went out of Egypt and they came to Yam Suf, right, where they call the Red Sea, and God split the sea. So it says when they split the sea, God split also all the heavens, and everyone saw God. It says the children were the first ones to see that. When you split the heavens, what do you see? The creator of the heavens. The children saw the creator. What that means, I don't know, but the children did know, and they saw God was dermit, which therefore had zich far endict, and this completed the going out of Egypt. Why did God take the Jews out of Egypt? So they would recognize God. In Egypt, they were always working, just saving their lives, right? The gathering was strong, whatever. And so God took them out of servitude so they would be free. And then they could recognize the creator of the universe. Who recognized them first? The children. When Afilah is saying, in Gullus, even when the children were in exile, and even then, the children had nit fargessen, the Jewish people did not, the Jewish children did not forget the promise that they received from Jacob, that God said, Jacob, pakadati, I will visit the Jewish people, visit the Jewish people, and I'll take them out. As oich gichem vet kuman, that I'm sorry, in gichem, that soon will come the time as the Eber said that God, vetze aroisnam, that God will take the Jews out of Egypt. The children knew it and they were waiting for it. And therefore, darf men sich great, and you have to prepare yourself. The children were prepared and ready for this big redemption, getting out of Egypt. How do they prepare? By means of learning the Torah of God, and conducting themselves according to the commandments which were commanded to them. There's certain commandments in Egypt also. That's Passover going out. The children played a big part in Egypt and going out of Egypt. They recognized God. They waited for the redemption. Also, the holiday of Shavuot, the time when God gave the Torah. Also, the children had a great merit, a great part in receiving the Torah and meriting all the Jewish people. Then, when the Jewish people had to Makabels and the Torah, receive the Torah, hat der Eberster God gefragt mit was can men sein sicher as men that schützen und hitten the Torah. God said, okay, listen, I want to give you the Torah. God said, to Moses, I want to give you the Torah, but I got this little problem, all the angels and everyone and these spiritual, beings and celestial beings that are, they're all saying that it's not going to work out. It's not, it's not a good match. Not going to work out. These Jewish people, they're very, very problematic, and they're very moody. They're moody all the time, like you go out and meet a girl, you want to get married, looking for a wife, and the matchmaker says, this is the perfect girl for you, and everything. And you check up about her, and they say, "Listen, it's not for you. I'm telling you, she's very unpredictable, and she just does whatever she wants to. Sometimes she yells, and sometimes it is. It's not for you." The same thing all the angels were saying to God. Listen, God, good idea. We really respect you that, you want to give the Torah to the Jews. It's your marriage day. It says in King Solomon's book, the Shir HaShirim, Song of Songs, the day God gave the Torah, it's the marriage day. A good idea to get married, but not with the Jews. Not with the Jews. Not them. They're going to make all sorts of troubles. You have no idea. These people are fickle. They're going to drive you crazy. So God said, well, he once said to Moses, listen, Moses, have you got any surety that you can give me that the Jewish people are going to keep the Torah? So Moses said, well, I got, all the wise men. God said, nah, they'll find ways to excuse whatever they do. I have the prophets. I don't think so. What about the children? God said, oh, that's good. The children. That's good. He said, the children, how can I be sure that the children will keep and observe the Torah, the way that God wants them to? All the Jewish people, Moses, all the Jewish people, they answered, Unser Kinder, right? It was the Jewish people answered, our children, it's a midrash, our children, vet sein unser arevos. Our children will be our surety, our collateral. They velen for uns, they will garantieren, they will be the guarantors as that they unmir, that they and us will learn the Torah and doing the commandments. Children are pure. Children see the truth. Undurach their arivos, and by means of this guarantor, this backup of the Jewish people, of the children, Hater Eibishter Maskim, God said, okay, and he gave the Torah to all the Jews. Children, that's what the Midrash says. This is also the thing from our time. The Chesed Hashem, with the great mercy of God, Gefin and Mir, we are now we find ourselves in a here, in a Sach Alichtaker Galus, in a much easier exile than it was back in Egypt. In Egypt, they were forcing the people, killing the people. Now, there's no problem. Now, the big problem in our exile that we're in now is mostly ignorance. Because there weren't such terrible decrees from murder like there was back then. Yiddish kinder for killing Jewish children. But from deswegen, nevertheless, we find in exile. And therefore, the Schwierigkeit, the difficulties, was Yidden haben euch geführen, the Jewish people, which the Jewish people also experienced in via Yid darf sie euführen. Nevertheless, the Jewish people are tested to see if they conduct themselves the way a Jew should. So how do we know that we will? What's to remind us the proper way? Darfen Kinder nicht vergessen, the children should not forget. As mir hoffen tag tägliche oif, the emes of geula, that we have to wait every day for the true redemption. And therefore, darf men sich, put this thing over here. Darf men sich, greaten, you have to prepare yourself, get ready for this big redemption. Durich learning Torah, by means of learning Torah with hasmara and shkida, constantly and how do you say shkida, and then with great diligence, and doing the commandments which God gave to us through the Torah. Okay, again, what's this thing about the future redemption? And nowadays we have life, we have food, and we have everything, but we don't really see the preciousness and the value and the miraculousness of the commandments and of the Torah. We do these rituals, we have these religious things we do. Let's see. Where you sometimes do see the holiness, especially of the commandments, is if you go on the streets, this is what I do every Friday. And I just finished doing it. I just came back from Rabbi Shimon's, they call it his grave. And I asked people coming down, especially there was the policemen and soldiers, if they wanted to put on tefillin. And there were two of them. I think 4 people put on. But 2 of them said that you know what, the last time I put on tefillin? Like 30 years ago, 20 years ago, someone, they were like, at their bar mitzvah, they put on, that's it. But you see that when they do put on the tefillin, that the only reason they have for putting them on is because they're Jews, and it's a good thing. Other than that, there's absolutely they won't miss anything if they don't put on the tefillin. What's the proof? Because they don't put them on anyway, and nothing happens to them. And they're policemen, and they're healthy people, and they're this. And they didn't put it on because they said, I have problems in my life, and I've done sins, and I want to purify myself. That wasn't, they were very happy, and they were this, and they both of these 2 people, there were others that also put on, but you see that the reason that they put on, because they felt the life, the good in it. Not a spiritual, religious feeling. They felt it was a living, good thing to do, not because you're getting any reward. That it's just the truth, doing the truth. It's unexplainable, but that's the feeling we should have all the time. Like a child, everything is just brand new and fresh and interesting. Und das ist the Anweisung, this is the teaching from the counting of the Omer in general, and especially from Lag BaOmer, the 33rd day of the Omer, one day that Rabbi Shimon passed away, especially the message for children. Kinder, children, darfen und wesen should know, as in they, that in them, hanged up depends, their glik, the fortune, and the geula, and the redemption from all of the Jewish people. Redemption means seeing the truth, seeing that God really loves us, God loves every human being, seeing that the Torah is holy, the commandments are holy, they're alive. As the kinder, the children, when children act the way the Jewish children should, in limud Torah, learning Torah, and doing the commandments, folgen and eltern, and following their elders, malamdin, their teachers, and the heads of the yeshiva, un beweisen, beispiel, and they're also being an example for all their friends around them, or fearing that this conduct, what happened? Yes? Oh. Or fearing that this conduct this is what's going to bring the future redemption. For them, and for all of the Jewish people. As Gor in Gicher, that completely and quickly, that Komen will come, Moshiach Tzidkenu. Just like Moses came and took the Jewish people out of their physical problems, their Egypt, Moshiach will come and take us out of our spiritual and our emotional and our intellectual exile that we're in. Und vet uns alle men, and all of us, toch Klal Yisrael, all of the Jewish people, a rois nemen from Galus, going out from the exile, and fearing and go to our holy land, b'meira b'yameinu, amen. Lag BaOmer, holiday especially of children. Okay. Now I'll tell you a story.